Move out! We're moving in! No! You're not coming in! We sold our house for your brother! You expect to live here?
Enough! Let us in!
People tell you houses don't remember you. They lie. That Detroit brick knew my name. It knew my scraped knees and the smell of hair grease on Saturday nights, my daddy's off-pitch humming while he fried catfish, my mama's peach cobbler cooling in the window like a promise. We survived layoffs, ice storms, and the summer the hydrant burst and turned the street into a kid's kingdom. That house had our whole family stitched into it, so when my parents, Harold and Denise, sold it, I nodded like a good daughter. Downsizing makes sense, I said. I brought them lemonade on closing day, even took a picture of Mama holding the sold sign, her smile wobbling like a table with one short leg. 2 weeks later, Calvin rolled up in a brand new Dodge Charger, black on black, engine purring like a threat. He leaned on the hood, flashing gold. Yeah, girl, he grinned. The bag landed. Mom and Pops finally believe in me. $450, all in. I'm launching the business. The business? This man had failed at barbering, landscaping, and a sneaker resale hustle that ended with him misplacing other people's shoes. My stomach went tight. That night, I stood in my own little 3-bedroom over in Ferndale, the one I'd bought after years of overtime at the hospital billing office. I ran my hand along the wall. I'd painted it this soft clay color to calm my nerves. You're okay, I told myself. Them giving him their nest egg ain't about you. Except it was. It always had been. The way coaches looked for my parents at my awards, but only Calvin's games made the cut. The way Mama turned my college acceptance into, be careful not to forget where you came from, while Calvin's GED got a family barbecue. Love shouldn't feel like math, but if it did, the equation had never once carried my name to the other side. 3 months passed. I sent check-in texts, got one-word replies, heard from Aunt Loretta that Mama was so proud Calvin finally stepping up. I wore my smile like a helmet. I went to work, to church, to the gym. I kept breathing. Then came the knock, the kind of knock that doesn't ask. I opened the door, and grief pushed past me. My parents stood there with 3 suitcases each, eyes expectant, like UPS had delivered them to the wrong house, but they'd signed for the package anyway. We're moving in, Daddy said. Not a question. A verdict. I blinked. Moving where? Mama rolled her eyes like I was slow. Here, Kenya. Calvin's place is, well, he's a young man. We can't rest there. You got space. You gave away your safety net, I heard myself say. I didn't know that meant giving away mine. Daddy shouldered past, suitcase wheels carving little bruises into my hardwood. Girl, hush, we raised you. Time to honor thy father and thy mother. Scripture as a weapon, guilt as currency. The old family language. My throat got tight. I stepped aside, because that's what the dutiful child does even when the duty is killing her. The first 48 hours were knives made of small things. Daddy fixed my living room because his chair needed a man's line of sight to the TV. Mama put my almond milk in the trash. Grown women drink real milk. And reorganized my pantry like I lived in her memory. She called my couch pillows performing too much, then patted my hand. You always were dramatic. On day 5, I came home to find my guest room emptied of my storage bins, my sewing machine, my Christmas ornaments. In their place, Mama's dresses swinging in my closet and her perfume invading my sheets like a stranger wearing my name. You could have asked, I told her. We don't ask family, she said and smiled like it was love. Calvin started showing up on day 7, tapping my fridge, grinning at my Ring camera like it filmed his good side. He smelled like the inside of a nightclub. Sis, you got any more of that Cajun shrimp? I brought the homie D-Ray. I watched 2 grown men I didn't invite eat off plates I bought in a kitchen I pay for. I didn't sleep much. I kept hearing drawers open in the night, the whisper of Mama's slippers in the hall, the clink of Daddy's glass when he poured himself the good whiskey I saved for company. The house I worked so hard for began to feel like a coat someone else buttoned up around me. On day 12, I came home to a backyard full of folding chairs, smoke, neighbors, and my daddy at the grill, introducing my house as ours. Mama gave tours like a realtor. We'll knock down that wall, she told Sister Janice from church. Make the kitchen open concept. I stood there on my own grass, paper plate trembling in my hand, and realized this wasn't a visit. This was a quiet invasion. People like to call me calm. Calm is just anger with a diploma. I stopped arguing. I started writing. I bought a spiral notebook, the cheap kind from back-to-school bins, and I labeled it House Log. I wrote down dates, times, incidents, took pictures when my furniture moved, saved receipts when my utilities doubled, kept screenshots when Mama texted. We told Deacon Paul he could stop by to pray. Be decent when he arrives, as if the home I pay for were a community center. On day 17, I woke to the smell of bleach. Mama had deep cleaned my bedroom. She had washed my sheets, my lavender-scented refuge, with heavy fragrance detergent that makes my skin flare. "You're welcome," she sang. I scratched hives up and down my arms and wrote it all down. On day 19, a debt collector left a voicemail asking for me or any adult at her address about a credit account I'd never opened. I called back, voice steady as air before a storm. The agent read off a mailing address change filed the week prior. My address. When I asked who filed it, she said, "It appears to have been requested by a family member listed on your file." My head rang. I remembered the year I was 22 and Mama used my social to open a small store card for emergencies. I remembered paying it off in quiet to keep the peace. I requested the fraud packet, then checked my mailbox, and found 3 envelopes addressed to Harold and Denise. Collection notices forwarded to my home. I took pictures. I wrote it down. On day 21, in front of half the church, Deaconess Ruthie found me after service. "You know scripture, baby. Honor them. The Lord will make a way." I smiled thin and told her I'd get right on that after the Lord finished making my mortgage payment. On day 24, Calvin strutted in with 2 boxes of liquor. "Grand opening for my lounges this Friday. You coming? I need some cashiers. You good with numbers?" "What lounge?" I asked. "The one I got the lease for in Highland Park," he bragged. Got Pops to co-sign. My eyes found Daddy's. He didn't look back. Later, I'd learned the lease was a predatory mess with a personal guarantee that would drag them under. Later, I'd see the photo of the grand opening with 1/3 of the chairs empty and the DJ begging folks to stay for one more set. For now, I just swallowed the old familiar flavor, being told after, asked never. So I kept documenting, kept breathing, kept calm. And then I made an appointment with an attorney who wore her hair in twists and her suits sharp enough to slice bad habits open. Miss Parker looked at my log and nodded. "You've done more than most people who come to see me. We'll do this clean, legal, and final, but you have to be ready for them to make you the villain." "I was born that role," I said, surprising myself with the laugh that came after. We drafted a 30-day notice to quit. We prepared a no trespass notice for Calvin if he kept entering without my consent. We printed the law and highlighted the parts that said, "This is your home. You decide who lives here." On day 27, I taped the notice to the guest room door and handed copies to both my parents, one at a time. Mama screamed first. Daddy went quiet second. Calvin threw his hands up like I'd pulled a gun. "You heartless Kenya. They're old enough to sign away their home to fund your dreams," I said. "They're old enough to plan a new kitchen with my money. They're old enough to know I'm not their retirement plan." They called me ungrateful, ungodly, a disgrace. I wrote the words down too, not because I needed proof for court, because I needed to remember why I was doing this when the guilt tsunami rose. The silent war lasted 2 weeks after that. Cold shoulders, slammed cabinets, whispered prayers that sounded like curses. They called family to build a jury. Aunt Loretta texted, "You sure this the hill?" I replied, "It's not a hill. It's my house." Then came the night Calvin used his key at 1:11 a.m. and woke me arguing with the air. I called the non-emergency line like Miss Parker told me to. When the officers came, I showed them the no trespass letter addressed to him, already signed and notarized. They walked him out, polite but firm. I locked my door after they left and cried into my pillow. Not from fear, from relief. Boundaries hurt like new shoes the first week. Then they carry you across miles you never knew you could walk. Moving day came like a holiday nobody asked for. The 30 days were up. I'd packed their things into clear bins so there could be no confusion about what belonged to whom. I'd bought Mama a set of the same brand cookware she loved. Call it mercy, call it closure. I'd printed a resource list Miss Parker gave me. Senior apartments, church assistance programs, legal aid for debt counseling. I laid it all on the dining table like a buffet of better choices. Daddy refused to look at any of it. "We ain't beggars," he said, chest puffed with a pride that never once paid a bill. Mama looked tired for the first time since the invasion began. Under the perfume, I caught the truth. Fear. No home. No plan beyond my front door. No Calvin with room for them because the lounge had eaten his lease deposit and spit him back out with fines. Calvin arrived loud as usual, but the sound cracked. The Charger had a boot on it last week. Today it had a spare tire and a missing hubcap. "This ain't right," he told the sidewalk. "Family don't put family out." "Family don't convert your address without asking either," I said, sliding a copy of the fraud affidavit across the table. "Family don't forward collections to their daughter's doorstep." He blustered. He blamed the system, the landlord, the haters, his bad luck, his good heart. He never once blamed the grown man in his shoes. Neighbors watched from porches because folks always love a show. I didn't give them the shouting match. I gave them a clipboard. "Here's the property inventory," I told my parents calmly. "Initial here, here, and here." Daddy's pen hovered like a hummingbird over a new flower. "You think you somebody," he muttered. "I am somebody," I said softly, "and I'm finally acting like it." I ordered pizza for the movers and tipped well. I let Mama take the blue quilt she sewed when I left for college, even though it had started to smell like her house rules. I hugged her when she cried, her tears hot with grief and old entitlement leaving the body. I didn't shrink when she whispered, "You'll regret this." "Maybe," I said, "but I won't regret choosing my peace." The goodbye cookout? That was my idea. Petty and holy all at once. I set a folding table on the front lawn and put out lemonade and chips for the neighbors who had suffered the barbecues and the midnight parking battles. "Thanks for your patience," I said. "It's been a season." When the last bin rolled down the walkway and the car doors slammed, silence settled on my porch, like a soft animal finally willing to nap in my lap. I breathed. In, out. I could hear my own heartbeat again. That night, I moved my couch back to its rightful place, stacked my books' spines out, and washed my sheets in the lavender detergent Mama called pretend soap. I lay down in my bed and whispered, "Thank you," to no one and to everything. The next morning, Miss Parker filed the final paperwork, and I mailed the fraud packet with certified tracking. I changed my locks, installed a keypad, and sent Calvin a text. "Your key code is revoked. Any entry without permission will be treated as trespassing. This is the last communication on this matter." Blocked his number after. I made pancakes for the first time in months and ate them with my bare hands, standing at my own counter, crying and laughing at the same time. People think revenge is fire. Turns out, revenge is a boundary you hold in the rain. The fallout came like weather. Calvin's Lounge shut its doors 3 weeks after grand opening. The landlord sued for damages and unpaid rent. Daddy's signature on the guarantee made the letters come to their motel room with the same authority they'd brought to my front door. Aunt Loretta said Daddy called it racist. Aunt Loretta said the judge called it binding. Mama tried soft first. "We can come back just for a little while," she said on the phone, voice honeyed. "Till we sort this out." "We? No, ma'am," I answered gently. "You and Daddy chose. I'm choosing too." Then she tried hard. "I carried you 9 months. And I carried me 34 years, I said. "I'm tired." Calvin didn't call, but he posted. "Fake family will switch up when you down," he wrote under a photo of himself in front of a mural. Comments from his boys? Facts. Comments from folks who know me? None. I didn't reply. You cannot out-argue a story somebody tells to protect their shame. A month later, Mama sent a different kind of text. They approved us for a senior apartment. Move in Friday. She added a picture of her new kitchen, small but bright, white cabinets that look like a reset button. "It's not home," she wrote, "but it's ours." I stared at that word, ours, and felt something uncoil in my chest. On moving day, I drove by with a plant that doesn't die easy, snake plant, stubborn, forgiving. I hugged Mama long. I shook Daddy's hand because that's what he understands. "Y'all got this," I said, and meant it. I left a payment receipt for a financial counseling session on their table, and a note. "Use it or don't, but no more using me." Calvin saw me in the parking lot and took a long path around like I was contagious. Before he turned the corner, he said without looking at me, "You ain't got a forgiving bone." "Forgiveness ain't the same as access," I replied. He kept walking. I won't pretend the nights got easy overnight. Some evenings I sat on my couch and stared at the door like it might knock again. Some mornings I wanted to call Mama and ask what she was cooking for Sunday, then remembered Sunday was mine now. But peace has a sound you can learn again. Kettle whistle, washing machine, the whir of a fan, your own keys in your own bowl. I slept through that sound and woke to it and felt my life gathering back to me like a skirt you smooth over your knees after someone tugged too hard. On a Wednesday in June, I hosted my first Just Me cookout. I invited the neighbors, the mail carrier who always says hi, my friend Janelle from work who laughs like a bell. We ate ribs I seasoned myself, played Frankie Beverly, and danced with paper plates in our hands. When the grill smoke curled into the evening and the porch light made a soft halo, I stood in the yard and thought, joy is not a sin, it's maintenance. Later that summer, Mama and Daddy came by, invited, scheduled, respected. I set boundaries like a table. Start time, end time, please knock, shoes off. They complied. We ate peach cobbler I baked from Mama's recipe, and for once she didn't criticize my crust. She asked about my garden. Daddy asked, awkwardly, earnestly, if I could look over some debt letters with them, not to pay, just to explain. We put on our reading glasses and handled business like grown folk. Before they left, Mama touched my arm. You were right, she said, voice small but clear. We made you our plan because we never made one. I'm sorry, baby. I swallowed the lump in my throat and nodded. Apologies are tiny bridges. You cross them slowly or you fall. I love you, I said. Loving you just looks different now. Calvin's story took the long road. He called me on a rainy night a year later from a rehab center 2 cities over. I messed it up, he said, voice thin as hospital sheets. Could you come visit? Not money, just visit. And because revenge had already done its job, saved me, not scorched him, I went. I brought him lemon pepper wings and a crossword puzzle book. I told him I was proud of the one good decision he made that week, asking for help. I left before he could ask for anything else. I drove home in the dark and pulled into my driveway. The porch light clicked on, washing the steps in gold. My house exhaled like it had been holding its breath while I was gone. I turned the key, stepped into my sweet, ordinary peace, and felt the victory that doesn't need witnesses. They sold their house and gave the money to my brother. They tried to convert my life into their safety net. I learned the thing I should have been taught as a child. Love is not a blank check. Love is a boundary with a heartbeat. And I slept, in my soft clay-painted room, under my lavender sheets. No war, no watch, just rest. Thank you for staying with me through this storm and the soft weather after. Your turn. If your parents gave away their future and tried to claim your present, what would you do? Would you let guilt flood your home, or build a boundary and keep your peace? Tell me in the comments, share your city so I know how far this story has traveled, and please subscribe to our channel for more raw, real tales of betrayal, boundaries, and redemption.